All right. In this video, I am going to create this beautiful dynamic 3D background using the Blender geometry node and also a shader node to add some emission material to this structure. And if you like this type of procedural motion graphic effects, then you can visit my Patreon where you find a lot of procedural stuff. So how we can create this beautiful 3D background? Now let's jump into the video. All right. I open the Blender and select this cube and directly jump into the geometry node workspace. And here I hit this new button to create a new geometry node tree. And here I select this group input and delete this because I use grid instead of this cube, and connect this grid with the group output. And here you can see the grid. And here I search for the instance on point node. And also here I search for the cube and connect with this instance. Now we have this. Here I adjust the size of this cube and also the size of this grid. And here I increase the size up to 10 meter and also increase the vertices along X and Y axis up to 50. And here in cube, I decrease the size X, Y, Z. Here I put 0.2. Now we have this type of stacks of cube and a very little small gap in between them. Now I want to rotate these whole structure along the y-axis. So for that, here I search for the transform geometry node and connect it here. And here I change this rotation angle to 90 degree. So we rotate this whole structure along the y-axis to the 90 degree. Now I want to displace these cube along the x-axis, so we can see the lights coming from our back source, something like a plane which has emission material which we can use later. So for that, here I search for the set position node and connect it here. And here I also search for the combine XYZ, so we can control all of these axes and connect with the offset of the set position node. And here I search for the noise texture, place it here, and connect this with the z-axis. And here you can see our noise texture is applied to these cube structures. And this is the z-axis because this grid, we apply the transform geometry node here to rotate this along the y-axis. But here, this is along the z-axis. If we use set position node here, then we can use the x-axis to see our noise effect on these cubes. Now I want some changing in the noise texture, and here I decrease this scale detail to 0 and change this to the 40 so we can animate this structure, and also decrease the scale something like here. And here I search for the another node which is the map and connect it here and convert this into the multiply so we can strengthen the noise texture effect. And here we can use this value to change this effect. Here I put 2 to give more spaces and see directly in between these cube. And now I add the background for this structure. So for that, here I search for the plane and rotate this along y-axis to 90 degree, something like this, and also scale this to cover the whole background, something like that, and Control A to apply the scale. Now we have this. Now I want to add the material for these structures, and here into the material panel, and here I create the material. This is for the background, and I rename this as background and this is for the cubes, and here I create new material and rename this as cube. Now we have two material in our scene. To apply the material to this cube, here we search for the search material node and grab the material cube, so we can apply the material to this cube in the shader editor. Now I want to apply the material to this structure. Here I select this plane and enter into the material workspace. And for this plane, I apply the emission material. So the lights coming from this material out of these cubes. And here I delete this principal BSDF and search for the emission and place it here and connect with the surface. You cannot see the emission material because we are in solid view. We jump into the rendered view, and here in rendered view, I use the EV render engine instead of cycles. And here to change our background, here I decrease this HDRI value to 0, and here I turn off this transparent background. Now we have black background, and we can see our emission material clearly. So here I do some changes to our emission material. I change this emission color something like this and make it some more dark, and also increase the emission strength up to 15. Now we have very emissive material in the background of this cube. And now I change the material for this cube. So select this cube, and here I change this material. Here in principal BSDF, I change this color something like that. You cannot see the color directly in the 3D viewport because there is no light in our scene. To see this, we turn off this scene world, and here you can see our material. Make it some more dark, something like that, and here increase this metallic value and decrease this strength, roughness, something like that. And here in subsurface, I increase this weight up to 1 because when the emission light is coming from this background, so we can slightly see the subsurface in this tube. Now we have that. Now we do some composition and add camera and light to our scene. So here I turn on this and enter into the compositing, and here I hit the use node button, and here I search for the fog glow and place it here. You cannot see because we have no frame rendered in the 3D viewport. So for that, back to the material, and here I add a camera to our scene, and something like here, and by selecting this camera, press Ctrl Alt 0 to view this. Now we have this. To see the emission, we render just one frame, and here you can see, and back to here. To see this, here we turn on this always option to see our glowing effect. Now we have this type of structure. Now here I add some light to see this cube. So search for the light, and here I search this area light and move it something like along x-axis here, and also rotate this along y-axis 90 degree, and scale this light something like that and into the camera view. And here in the light panel, we increase this power something like 500. Here you can see in our light on this cube, and here I change some camera setting. Here I decrease this focal length something like, think here is looking nice. And now select this cube and enter into the geometry node workspace. Here we again enter into the render view and also in camera view. And here I select this always button to see our composition. Now we have this. Now I want to animate this cube. So for that, here I select this noise structure and shift D to duplicate because I want looping this animation. And here I search for the mix color node and place it here and connect this vector with the A and this vector with the B and this result with our multiply node. Now we have that. And here in timeline, I end this frame 120 frame and back to the 0 frame because for looping, we always start from the 0 frame. Here in the noise structure, we hover this value, back this vector to 0, hover this W value, hit I to insert the keyframe, and also hit I, hover this vector value of the mix color node and hit I to insert the keyframe. And now jump to the last frame, which is 120, and here I change this value to 1 and hit I to insert the keyframe and increase this vector up to 1 and hit I to insert the keyframe. And at 120 frame, I hover this W value of the second noise structure and hit I to the insert the keyframe. And now back to the frame 0. And here I put the same number, but in opposite. Here I put 1 at frame 120, and here I put -1 at frame 0 to make this animation fully looping. So here I put -1 and hit I to insert the keyframe. Now we have this fully looping animation of this background. Now if I run this animation, you can see in 120 frame and there is no jerk and our animation is fully looping. Now press F12 and here you can see our 3D background, dynamic 3D background in a rendered view. So in this way, you can easily create the dynamic 3D backgrounds using the Blender geometry nodes and shader nodes. Thanks for watching.